What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So I'm here today to talk about The Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episodes 5 and 6. So it's a two-parter. Feel free to fast forward if you need to. There'll be timestamps down below. But we'll kick off with Episode 5, On Thin Ice, right now. And so the episode begins with Lisa and John. They're just kind of at the house kicking it, and Lisa's filling him in on some of the drama that went down in Scottsdale. So as we know, Lisa Barlow was really distraught by the rumors that she was sucking dick for the court-sized jazz tickets. And, you know, when she was at the table, she's like, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. Just repeating that over and over again. She also proceeded to, like, run away crying and shit. But while she was all distraught, she called John, and he was actually laughing about it. He's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, there's no way. And they also proceeded to say that Angie Harrington, a.k.a. Angie H, that she's already proven herself to be a liar, basically. And in reference to a whole debacle that went down last season. So as we'll recall, Angie H, last season, she had a little brief cameo. She's been friends with Lisa for like 20 years. And she's also cool with Whitney because, or she was cool with Whitney, because she and Whitney are like distant cousins, like how Whitney and Heather are. Just some Utah Mormon shit, basically. Anyways, so the kind of allegation is that Lisa Barlow had the catering company cancel on Angie H at the very last minute. So basically, Lisa tried to sabotage Angie's LGBTQ charity event, according to Angie Harrington, at least. So they're both like, you know, that whole shit last year, Lisa had no part in that, and Angie H is already a liar. So basically, her words, like, anything she says won't, like, you know, hold any weight. So, yeah, that's what they say. And then Lisa also goes on to say that she appreciates Whitney sharing the bad truth with her and just letting her know that her friends are basically talking shit about her. She's like, you know, Whitney took a risk. I'm not in the best place with Whitney. We're barely kind of forming a friendship, but she let me know this harsh truth, and I appreciate that. She had my back. So it's good to see that, I guess. We've seen kind of Lisa and Whitney's little friendship. It's not going to last. I guarantee you it's going to be gone by, like, next season. It's not going to last. Anyways, let me go to another couple scene with Whitney and Justin. Like, similarly to Lisa and John's kind of sitting and chatting and stuff. Whitney says that she's still recovering from the trip because she was drinking all day and just all the emotional turmoil and shit. Although she is thankful that she got to reconnect with her siblings, Kelly and Curtis, down in Arizona. And also, to point out, people on Twitter have been kind of really bashing Whitney because they're kind of starting to pick up on her little, like, accent. So instead of saying her, like, healing journey, it's her healing journey. Or instead of Real Housewives, it's Real Housewives. So, people are kind of catching on to it. I didn't really notice it at first because maybe, like, I don't know, because it's kind of like, kind of Valley girlish, you know, kind of in SoCal, so it's like I kind of hear similar stuff, but since someone pointed out, I cannot stop hearing it. So yeah, they're kind of shitting on Whitney's little accent, how she pronounces things. It's probably just a Utah thing, I don't know. Anyways, Whitney then brings up the Heather drama, of course, and she says that, like, the root of it is that she felt voiceless and unheard, just how she spent her childhood. So she says that Heather really triggered something deep in Whitney, and she's like, I don't even think Heather realizes it. So, she's kind of navigating these waters, if you will. And now continuing the string of little solo scenes, if you will, we see Heather meeting up with Angie Harrington, of all people. So they meet up over at Angie H's house, and they have, like, some dirty martinis. And mind you, it's, like, early afternoon, it looks like. It's not, I don't know, martinis to me are like an evening drink. I'm obviously day drinking, I think I'm not going to shout day drinking, obviously, but it's like, you can have mimosas, you can have, like, a Bloody Mary, like, Irish coffee, like fucking martinis, like, what, I don't know, it's just, I think it's a very nighttime drink to me, but, you know, they're catching up for fucking lost time, you know what I mean? Anyway, so they're sitting there, you know, having their drinks, and, I don't know, I have to say that Angie H has this kind of weirdish vibe about her. So, like, Heather did tell Angie about, like, the stuff that went down in Scottsdale, what Whitney said about Angie H allegedly saying that, oh, Lisa Barlow sucked dick for these tickets, basically. And Angie's response was like, what? That's insane. And she's like, even if it were true, hypothetically, I would never say that in that environment because it's a business environment. And she's like, my husband has, his company has, like, a courtside suite. Like, there's no way I would do that. I'm very careful with that. It didn't happen. End of story. Done. And I don't know. I'm not, especially what we find out about Angie H and her crusty-ass husband later on. It's like, I don't know. I am not, like, people are clocking Angie H as being extremely thirsty, like fucking Jill Zarin level thirsty, basically. But yeah, so I don't know, man. And then in the confessional, Angie H says she doesn't know Whitney to be a liar. However, she does know her to be a paranoid pot stirrer. So she's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what he's up to. And she makes some weird joke about how, oh, well, if it is true, the guy who Lisa's with must be a submissive. That's a lot to handle. And she's like laughing at her own joke, like trying to be like forced funny kind of vibes. I don't know. I'm sure production caught that shit too, and that's what Angie H is a friend of instead of like a full on, I don't know, but I'm getting weird vibes from Angie H, and I'm not alone with that. And then Heather proceeds to kind of share that she's invited everyone to a little ski day event, which we'll see later on in this episode. She also invited some of her cousins to bridge the gap with them ahead of her book, which is called Bad Mormon. And Heather shares she's trying to balance her true feelings about the Mormon church while still kind of keeping her loyalties to her family and friends. So she's like kind of trying to navigate these waters kind of. And oddly, in response, Angie H like brings the topic back to Whitney. She's like, oh, you know, like, I feel like Whitney must be mistaken about everything. I hope we can work through it. But Heather says, oh no, Whitney's stance is if we disagree with her, like, we're lying. Like, we're liars. And so yeah, we'll see some stuff between Angie H and Whitney and also Lisa Barlow right now. So interesting. Next is the Meredith scene. So it's her and Seth. They're linking up with Brooks for lunch. And side note, in season 1, I, like many others, could not stand Brooks. He's in every fucking Meredith scene. But this season is a lot more palatable. He's, like, off at NYU. We've only seen him, like, 2 times this season so far. I'm like, okay, like, I can handle that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, he's a senior at that university, and he's also doing his business shit, his fashion line stuff. Seth asks if Brooks has a significant other, and Brooks jokes that he's had a boyfriend for 2 years, but he's like, oh, no, I'm just kidding. Like, no. Meredith then shares that she and her sister, they're going to be throwing an event to kind of help raise money and awareness for mental health and addiction. And she also shares that it's related to some serious mental health issues that her 18-year-old nephew went through last winter. And so Meredith kind of spoke on that a little bit at the season 2 reunion. It came up and she got really emotional. And obviously I think it was back in episode 3, it was brought up that one of her family members had attempted suicide. So she didn't say it explicitly, but that's kind of, you know, just laying what we've seen so far out for you. And yeah, it's gonna be like a charity fashion show. She'll have some of her pieces there. Books might have some pieces in there as well. And she says that her sister started the foundation to kind of just support some mental health foundations and charities. I think this would be beneficial to the public. So yeah, hopefully we see that later on this season, and yeah. And then rounding out the fucking family scenes and shit, we have Jen with Coach Shah at home. Cause remember, Jen, she was in Scottsdale for a bit, she took a red eye to New York City, and now she's back home after that. And she was in New York City doing trial preparation. It was really rough, because like they're preparing her to go up on the stand, so like, they're saying, so in her words, she's like, oh, they're saying all these lies, and I just can't have to practice not react, like being angry about you know what I mean? Just kind of practicing being on the stand and practicing having like unfavorable opinions and things being thrown at you. You know what I'm saying? So it's being rough, and Jen and Coach are doing some couples therapy shit before, like just like, oh, we're gonna do some soul gazing, like the shit like that. Before Jen shares that her trial was moved from March to July, which is giving her some mixed feelings, because she's like, I just want to go in there, prove that I'm innocent, and move on from this. And adding the little cherry on top is Coach Shah getting a confessional, and he says that he has to be strong because his wife is really scared at times, and he's giving Jen some really comforting advice. And it's just so sad to see, like, hearing Sharif kind of talk about it, like, in the moment, and knowing now that she's pleaded guilty, and it's just so eerie. Like, and I'm not, like, everyone on Twitter, like, I can't, like, these scenes of Jen talking about how innocent she is just, they're so, like Twilight Zone shit. It's like unnerving almost. We then get back to Lisa Barlow, who calls her brother Brian on FaceTime. And I was initially kind of confused because like a couple episodes back, Lisa mentioned like, oh, I grew up with like 4 sisters. Like she making it sound like it was just her and her 4 sisters, like as a family of 5 kids. But yeah, she has one brother, Brian, and just kind of talking. And she talks to him about how all of their siblings are either divorced or in the process of getting divorced, except for Lisa and Brian. They're the last one standing, as she puts it. And Lisa gets emotional and says she feels really bad for them. And honestly, this seems random as fuck. It's like, girl, why you on here airing your fucking sister's dirty laundry? Like, it was like, girl. I don't know. But yeah, Lisa and Brian. Oh, side note, Brian looks a lot like John Barlow, by the way. And it's kind of creepy because John Barlow dated one of Lisa's sisters before he dated Lisa. So it's like, I don't know, it's weird, but I think they look alike. Let me know what you think. Lisa and Brian then hang up. She talks to John a bit about how, like, she worries a lot about her family and how, like, this friend group related stress is making shit a lot harder for Lisa, essentially. And she gets kind of emotional, even in the confessional. She says, like, you know, she does everything with John. They're raising their kids together, they work together, they're attached at the hip, basically. And no matter how solid they are, the rumors, like, they hurt. So we now check in with Whitney, and she's having a notary come through to basically finalize her resignation from the Mormon church. And she says this is actually her third time trying to, like, leave the church. So, she recalls the very first experience she had trying to do it, and it was when, back before she and Justin were married. It was back when she was married to her ex still, and she and Justin were, like, having this torrid affair. And she recalls the entire process being really inappropriate and predatory. Like, they had, like, the Mormon, like, I don't know what the word, like, these, I guess, church leaders, if you will, or, like, of the specific, like, place she went to worship. I'm not sure exactly. Just these Mormon officials, they had Whitney basically, like, confess everything, say exactly what went down between her and Justin, when, where, like, all the details, basically ask for repentance and shit. And so yeah, she's kind of looking back on that. She says she sees similarities between the abuse that she suffered from the Mormon church and from her family member. And yeah, so there's another little Whitney scene on her in her healing journey, and then she signs a letter and takes back her power. So good for Whitney. And now we have the final scene, which is Heather's ski day. And so people start arriving. It's mostly cousins at first. Then we get the introduction of Danna, and so she's introduced through Heather. Heather says that Danna inspires her because she's super kind while keeping her edge still. So yeah, we see her, and then we segue to Lisa and Whitney. They're in the car riding over together. Whitney says she hadn't spoken to Heather at all since the Arizona trip, and you know, she's really still hurt by Heather. And Whitney thinks that Heather weaponized her trauma against her. But despite that, she is open to talking if Heather is, basically. Yeah, there are more ladies pouring into Heather's ski day, and everyone gets acquainted, and we have all friends of present for the first time. We have Angie H, Angie K, who we met back in fucking season 1, and Danna. So, like I said, Angie H will clock her as thirsty. Angie K will go out on a limb and say she's fucking boring, because allegedly Angie K, she's known, I think Angie K went to high school with Heather, and she's known Lisa for a year, and she was cool with Jen. Like, she's really intertwined with the group, and she was allegedly, word on the street is that she was, like, kind of tested out for, like, back in season 1 for filming, but, like, they cut all her scenes or whatever. So I don't know, I haven't seen too much of her yet, but in the next episode, we kind of see, it looks like she gets into the drama a bit, so that'll be exciting to see. Then we have Danna, who is the one from the trailer who told Jen, oh, like, you shouldn't be talking to me like that, especially if you need some money on your books. Like, kind of she read Jen down, if you will. So yeah, the gang's all here. But because the gang is all there, Lisa is, like, flabbergasted to see Angie Harrington there. She's like, after what just went down, why the fuck is Angie H here at Heather's event? So she's really upset. Angie H goes up to Lisa and, like, hugs her, and Lisa's just like, what the fuck, you fake ass? She doesn't, like, give it back. And yeah, Lisa's really upset at Heather, essentially. And then we see some ski activities. Jen is on the bunny hill and says she's like, I am athletic, but I'm not good at skiing. Like, she's like, I am Moana. I'm from Hawaii. I'm of the ocean. Like, fuck this ski shit. And Lisa, she's also on the bunny hill, so no one can do that. And it's like, Jen and Lisa they grew up in Utah. Like, Jen, like, was born in Hawaii, and her family is from Hawaii, and she's Tongan, but, like, she was raised in Utah. You know what I'm like, you guys have never gone skiing? Like, I don't know. We then see Lisa venting to Jen, Angie K, and Danna about Angie H. They're all kind of sitting there talking, and Lisa says she's willing to end her 20-year friendship with Angie H, and she's really side-eyeing Heather now as well. She says that this was just the cherry on the icing on the top of the cake. Like, it was just like the last straw. She's like, what the fuck, Heather? So Lisa's really pressed about that, to be honest. Everyone then heads inside for wine and some charcuterie boards. Jen tells the ladies that her trial date was moved to July, and Lisa says, oh, then we could do a Hamptons trip. Like, fuck it, let's do it. And the vibe all becomes celebratory and shit, and Whitney in confessional is like, why are they celebrating? It's just more time of uncertainty, more like unknown. She says that the prosecution could be using this time to get some more key witnesses against Jen. So she's like, this might not be a good thing, you know? And yeah, and then Angie Harrington then goes up to Whitney and she brings up her and Heather falling out in Scottsdale and shit. And Angie says that she doesn't remember Whitney's version of events, essentially. She's like, I don't recall saying that. If I did, I would own it. Just, you know, saying that shit. And in confessional, Whitney says that Angie Harrington is doing what liars do, and she wouldn't expect her to do anything other than cover her ass. But Whitney also goes on to say that she isn't as upset at Angie Harrington not owning it because Heather is more important to her. She says it. You know, she's like, yeah, Angie Harrington and Heather both have the same story, but Angie not corroborating my story, Angie not like backing me up, whatever, fuck it. But Heather not backing me up, that's my girl, like Heather. That's kind of what Whitney's going at, basically. We then see Jen go up to Heather, and she fills Heather in about how upset Lisa is about Heather inviting Angie Harrington. Yeah, and then Heather, she says she was just trying to bring everyone together, and she didn't want to, like, she just didn't take Lisa's feelings into account, essentially. She's like, I just didn't think about that. So then Heather goes and tells this to Lisa, and Lisa's kind of bothered by it. She's like, so you just didn't, like... And Lisa says that Heather not taking her feelings into account is almost worse than just, like, saying fuck it, I'm inviting her. You know what I mean? But, I don't know. It looks like this might cause some more drama between Lisa and Heather, so I don't know. We'll see what's up with that. Angie H then goes up to Lisa and asks her to talk, but Lisa's just not with it. She's like, no, I'm not interested. I have nothing to say to you. Like, no, I'm just really not interested. Like, she shuts that shit down. She's not giving Angie H any opportunity to shine. And that's how it has to go, honestly. I'm with Lisa on that one. And Lisa says that Angie H is just stabbing her in the back and kissing her cheek. And it's like, And then the last scene is Whitney approaching Heather to talk. And Whitney again says that she's sure that they talked about those Lisa rumors, like, at the Jazz game. And Heather says, you know, I just don't remember. And Whitney says, you know, I wasn't asking you to corroborate. I was asking you to have my back. And so how is Heather supposed to have your back without corroborating your story? She's supposed to say, like, I don't remember, but Whitney's not a liar. Whitney wouldn't lie about that. Like, is that what Whitney wanted? Like, I don't know. It's just like, girl, like, fuck it, like, stand up. You know what I mean? It's like, girl, like, have your, like, I don't know. It didn't feel like something that Heather needed to back. It just seemed weird. Whitney was just being a baby about it, to be honest. Whitney said that they have to agree to disagree, but in her confessional, Heather says, well, Whitney's just flat out wrong. So, like, there's nothing to, like, agree. Like, we're agreeing to disagreeing, and by that, I'm saying, you know, just do your thing, because you're wrong. You just go do it, you know? And with that settled, Whitney then calls Heather out for weaponizing her pain against her. And Whitney says that Heather accused her of making the trip about herself when she was really just wanting to vent to her friends, wanting her friends to hear her. Because remember, Heather was like, oh, this trip is about Jen, about supporting Jen. And you turned it into this big old fucking healing journey, this big old fucking emotional ass shit. And I don't think Heather was wrong for that. And Heather says, she gives some backhanded apology. She's like, oh, I'm sorry you interpret it that way. Like, some backhanded ass apology. But Whitney's, like, really still not over it, and she feels like Heather doesn't care about her. That's how Whitney genuinely feels. And Whitney tells Heather that, you know, she lost some trust in her, and she's gonna need some more time. And that's the end of episode 5. Let's slide on over to episode 6. So episode 6, Finsta Fight, starts off with a little real what's to come in the episode. So we know that there's some drama that comes up related to an Instagram account going by Shah Exposed. We know that Whitney's husband, Justin, loses his job over that one cringeworthy sex scene that they had last season. And we see Lisa Barlow calling out Heather on social media and accusing Heather of basically, like, lying about a text receipt, some shit like that. Then the first actual scene is Heather. She's checking out a theater, and she says that she's decided to set out and establish a choir. And she says she really misses getting to sing with people and being in a community, and you know, she just wants to kind of replicate that, you know, for, she's having some help by a choir director. He was raised Southern Baptist, but he's a gay man, so he's kind of like, kind of people who are like, love, like, that, the positivity from the church, but they, like, distance themselves for one reason or another, basically. So they're doing that, and so yeah, and then we see Coach Shah. He's taking Jen out on a date to a fucking indoor trampoline park. He says he wants to do something different, have some fun. And I'm like, okay, I can feel that, but Jen is just not with it. Like, you see little kids playing in the background and shit, like teenagers, with fucking foam pits. Like, it's just like a standard trampoline park, basically. And while they're literally in the foam pit, she brings up the account called Shah Exposed, and it's been shit-talking both Lisa Barlow and Jen Shah on Instagram. And Jen actually tells Sharif that Lisa did some snooping, and she found out that Angie H's husband, Chris Harrington, is the one behind the account. And this is some fucking, I'm like, what in the fucking Peter Thomas, fucking Sergio Corallo, like, what, like, it was just like, oh my god, but, yeah, that fool, this fucking 52 big ol' burly ass man is on fucking Instagram with his big ol' fat fingers fucking typing bullshit about women who don't like his wife. And Jen has nothing, and actually, as Sharif points out, Jen, like, has no beef with Angie Harrington. Like, Lisa has beef with Angie H, but, like, Jen has nothing, so she's like, why the fuck am I in it? Like, she's like that one 50 Cent meme, like, oh, what do you say fuck me for? But, yeah, and Jen is also really pissed that the name is Shah Exposed, because she's like, it's not Jen Exposed, it's not Jen Shah Exposed, it's just Shah Exposed. So you're disrespecting my entire family with that fucking account. So, yeah, she's not with it, and Jen shares that she was initially giving the benefit of the doubt. She says, I know how it feels to be accused of something you didn't do, so I was kind of giving them the benefit, but now she's really side-eyeing the Harringtons. She's like, what in the actual fuck? We then check in with Lisa Barlow. She's chatting with Jack about college once again, and she says that he has a false sense of reality, basically, and he just needs a reality check. Jack, he's like, oh, I want to work so people don't shit on me for having daddy's money. No, wait, it's Jack's money. Like, he's just some fucking, like, typical fucking, like, 17-year-old know-it-all rich white boy. You know what I mean? It's like, there's no, like, he's just, like, he said some shit about, like, yeah, so instead of going to college, just a waste of money. You know, I could just, like, find a business person I really admire and ask to intern with them, make him my mentor. And it's, like, I don't know, Lisa says he's trying to go into Bill Gates mode, and it's like, no, like, you can't cut corners and skip steps just because me and your dad helped you. Like, fuck that shit. So I actually really appreciate that shit from Lisa. I'm glad Lisa's like, no. And she says, you know, like, college isn't just about, like, the school, like, learning about science and shit. It's, like, the whole, like, experience and shit. And, you know, I'm a firm believer that not everyone needs to go to college, but it's, like, college, trade school, like, work. Like, everyone has a different journey, or the military even. But it's, like, it's like Jack's idea is, like, no, I'm not going to go to college. I'm just going to get rich by myself. I'm going to be fucking the next Elon Musk, just do it. And it's, you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. He didn't seem to be really realistic about it. Because like I said, I don't believe everyone should have to go to college. I think there's like trade schools, the military, full-time work. Everyone has their different things in different situations, you know, but Jack is just unrealistic about it, to be honest. Although he says he's pondering the college, right? He's like, I'm thinking about it. So, and watch, it's all, like, at the end of the season, like, oh, now Jack's going to college, yay. Like, you know what I mean? Just there's some, you can just already tell, like, how it's gonna be going. We then move over to Whitney and Justin, and they speak on how Justin was just fired from his job. There are a lot of people who are really shocked because he was, like, an OG in the company. He was, like, the chief sales and marketing officer. He was like that guy, basically, I guess. So everyone's like, oh my god, what the fuck, Justin got fired? Like, it's, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. And we learned that Justin was fired because his company said, oh, you know, I feel like there's a conflict of interest because your wife, with Whitney being a public figure and with certain things being shown. And the context is that last season, part of Whitney's storyline was that she and Justin were working on, like, their sex lives. Then there's that one Love is Art thing towards the end of the season where they, like, are basically, like, dry humping on camera, damn near. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, and Whitney, she says that she feels like Justin was let go because he wouldn't suppress his wife, basically. Like, he refused to, like, he's letting his wife do her own thing and shine, as company was threatened by that, essentially. And she says it's reminiscent of the sexism in the Mormon church, and she says she has no reason to feel guilty. And so that really fucking sucks. I wonder if he could sue. Like, honestly, like, because it's related to like his sexuality and like, you know what I mean? Like I'm sure that like, but it depends on his contract, I guess. You know, I don't know. That's really odd though. It really fucking sucks, and yeah, you know, just whack. You know, but yeah, but I will say again, you know, these are some of the things that, you know, so it's like with the Jen Shah got on fucking Real Housewives, and now that's how she got fucking caught up with her fucking stuff. You know what I mean? Like, if Jen hadn't been on Real Housewives, maybe it would have taken longer to get some of the work the case against her. I don't know. And then there's fucking like, I don't know, cause like, you have to think about that. So, you know, you're on a national platform, and it's, you know, Salt Lake City's not that poppin', I feel like, as a city. I mean, not the franchise, but as a city. And so it's like having a Real Housewives there. It's like, I'm sure everyone like knows who they are. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It just sucks. But yeah, just some shit you gotta think about before going into reality TV. It just sucks. You know what I mean? We now see Heather, and she's at Beauty Lab, and she's really marveling at her business's growth and success. Remember, she started this business after she and her husband split up. So yeah, and then she says that their second location, though, is still a little behind schedule, so she's expanding business hours to kind of keep up with the demand, because she says Botox waits for no one. Like, if we can't get people in, they're going to go somewhere else. Like, we need to be on it. So, yeah, and Heather, she also shares she's super stressed out about the book. She's missing deadlines left and right, and she's actually at risk of losing her whole deal, allegedly. And Heather, she's having a hard time because of the subject matter, because it's bad Mormons. She's like, when I write it the way that I want to put it, then I look at it with a new set of eyes, and I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be horrible. Like, this is too much. It's gonna like piss my family off, and piss my friends off. It'll ostracize me forever. So then she like waters it down, and it's like, well, this is fake. This isn't my fucking story. This is fake as fuck. So she's going back and forth, trying to like find, you know what I mean? It's a really tough thing. It's like trying to be true to yourself, but also trying to be true to the loyalty, true to the values and loyalties you respect or whatever. But yeah, and she's really having a hard time. She's trying to tell her truth about being labeled a traitor, essentially. Which, you know, damn. And at this point, Heather goes on to share that Lisa Barlow recently took to Twitter and to basically prove that she texted Heather before her dad died, contrary to Heather's claims at the reunion. Because at the reunion, Heather shared that like, Lisa Barlow texted me, I hope that your dad's doing okay. I hope your dad's feeling better after he died. And Lisa's like, no, that is not true. And Lisa was proving, oh no, I texted you 2 days before your dad died, so you were lying. And why does Salt Lake City always have these fucking death receipts? So now it's like, you know, did Lisa Barlow text Heather before or after her dad died? Last season it was, what day did Meredith go to the fucking funeral service for her dad? Like, it's like, oh my God. You know what I mean? It's like, oh. so macabre. And yeah, and it seems really out of the blue, although we do know that Lisa kind of has an issue with Heather now because she invited Angie H to skiing. But yeah, it seems totally out of the blue. I was like, maybe this was around the time when their reunion aired, or I don't even fucking know. And Heather explains that, yes, while her dad was indeed alive when Lisa Barlow texted her, he was dying in hospice. They had taken him out of the hospital, and like, he was actively dying. They were waiting for him. He was taking his last breaths on Earth. So he wasn't legally dead yet, but it was like, just, I get what Heather's trying to say. You know what I mean? It's not like, it was, oh my God, it just sucks. I actually feel kind of bad for Heather. You know what I mean? This whole thing's being brought up, the trauma and stuff. She already had such mixed feelings about her dad's death because she felt that like her dad died without ever knowing who the real her was. You know what I mean? But yeah, and Heather says she thinks that Lisa weaponized it to prove herself right. And she says the situation made stuff messy with one of her fucking cousins. And she's like, oh, like, one of my cousins was like, oh, this is disgusting. Like, I can't, like, be into this. Yeah, because again, this whole death receipts it's like, oh my God, really? Like, is this the storyline we're doing? So Heather's really pissed off about it. And she says, I hope her being right in this moment is worth it, because she may have lost me forever. Oh, and Heather also mentions that she invited Lisa to audition for her choir. And so she hopes that, you know, Lisa won't actually go through. She's like, oh, please don't. Please. Then we see Whitney and Lisa. They're linking up for a little yoga class together. And Whitney's like a natural at this shit. She's just doing a thing. Then Sharky's like, oh, beautiful form, Whitney. Great job, Whitney. Great, Whitney. And Lisa's like visibly struggling. But a bit of a harder time, if you will. Then after yoga, Whitney tells Lisa about how Justin left his job because it was a choice he was faced with. And kind of being coy, she didn't say he was fired. She's like, he left his job. It's something he was faced with. Like, and in a confessional, Lisa's like, Justin getting fired is all over social media. And it's like... It was just the timing. Because, like, Lisa was like, oh, no. Like, Whitney was like, oh, no, he left his job because, he was faced with that decision. And Lisa's like, immediately, yeah, him being fired is all over social media. Like, it's just, like, the quick, oh, my God. It was so fucking funny, to be honest. Lisa encourages Whitney and Justin to be optimistic before mentioning that she was facing some backlash over Heather's, the allegations that Heather made against Lisa's text. The people were calling her a bitch. Like, oh, I can't believe you texted Heather after her dad died. And so Lisa was like, she basically like looked up like the fucking in memoriam page, like the date, showing the day when he died, like his birthday to his death date, and showing her text. And she's like, no, I texted Heather 2 days before her dad died. So basically, she says it wasn't to be shady, it wasn't to be a bitch, it was to vindicate herself, essentially. Whitney thinks that Lisa should call Heather. She's like, that's what she thinks, but Lisa's like, no, I'm just gonna show up at the audition. I'm not gonna call her, I'm just gonna show up. And Whitney's like, all right, dude. Meredith and Seth now link up with Angie and Chris Harrington for it seems to be kind of a weird scene. Meredith says she doesn't really know Angie Harrington very well, but, she's getting to know her now because, fuck Lisa. She's like, I know Lisa and her have some issues, but I don't really have to be loyal to Lisa anymore, so now I'm gonna get to know Angie. And they also kind of hit it off at the ski day event, so it's kind of going out to dinner with their husbands and shit. Angie H then says that she and Meredith share a trauma bond because they both face the wrath of Lisa Barlow. It's like, oh my goodness, like, oh good lord. And Chris says that John Barlow, like, he's like, oh, I recently saw John Barlow, I don't remember, I think it was at another, like, jazz game. I think he saw him, like, at a game. And he said hi to him, and John told him to fuck off. And they're like, oh my god, like, Seth and Meredith are like, that sounds very out of character. And Angie H says, oh, do you think it could be because of the Instagram thing? And Chris then admits that he created a fake account to get back at Lisa, as a whole fucking 52-year-old man with a family and shit, because he suspected that Lisa was behind some attacks that Angie Harrington was getting on social media. And it's like, even if Lisa were behind those attacks against Angie Harrington, it's like, so you're gonna make, I don't know, it's like, hire a fucking assistant to do that shit. Have your wife do that. Like, why are you, as like a fucking 52-year-old dude, getting in? Like, it was just, I don't know. I thought it was really gross, to be honest. Seth and Meredith are like visibly taken aback. They kind of try being polite and just kind of make conversation. People are kind of upset, like, oh, why are Meredith and Seth making excuses, saying it's understandable. And it's like, I think it's just a really awkward situation, and they're just like trying to get through that fucking dinner. I can guarantee that Meredith and Seth talked mad shit about Chris Harrington when they got in the fucking car. You know what I mean? And yeah, then Chris, he says, oh, I know that wasn't the right thing to do, but, I've matured since then. And it's like, you're not, like, fucking 17. You're not even fucking, like, 26. Like, you're 52. Like, what the actual fuck? Like, oh my god, I would be so fucking embarrassed if I were their children. Like, I would be so embarrassed. The second to last scene is Jen Shah having Heather over some wine. And her house is all aliened out because Jen just took a birthday party for a 5-year-old. And Jen tells Heather about Chris starting Shah Exposed. And Jen says she heard about this through Lisa, and so she went to Angie Harrington, who denied it. And then later on, after Angie Harrington denied it, Chris Harrington called Jen, confessed, and apologized. And so it's like one of two things. Either Angie Harrington is the one behind it and Chris is like the fall guy, or Chris Harrington is actually the one. I don't know. And I don't really trust Angie Harrington. Just a weird, I don't trust that bitch. Something in my stomach. I don't know. And I'm not alone with this. A lot of people kind of like just clocking her, but anyways, yeah. Chris says he named it Shah Exposed because the name was available. And it's like, oh my god, like what? And Jen's shocked because Chris Harrington actually knows her. Like, she's like, it's not just some random internet troll. It's not just some fucking, like, it's Chris Harrington. And Jen's also like, and why is Shah exposed? Like, why couldn't it be Lisa Barlow exposed? And that's some bullshit. I don't even know. Like, he probably... I don't think it's because it was available. I think it's because he knew that Jen Shah, with all the legal shit around her, she's like a big name. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was just so weird, to be honest. And in response to this news, Heather is very put off. And she's like, I love Jen Shah, and I'm also friends with Angie H, and I don't want to be caught in the middle. And she also says that, like, Angie Harrington hadn't told her anything about it. She's like, I think she knows that I would be upset because Heather really loves Jen Shah, at least at this moment. She's like, her really cool. So she's like, yeah, so I don't know, man. But yeah, Heather's not really feeling the news, essentially. And last but not least, we have the day of Heather's choir auditions. Lisa Barlow's at the house fucking practicing for it, and John Barlow's fucking reading her down and keeping her humble.
In a manger, no crib for... I gotta do it lower, hold on.
All right, bring it lower.
Away in a manger, no crib for his bed. Nope, it's not gonna work, hold on.
Totally, that's like off.
We also see Whitney and Angie Harrington, like, kind of practicing some fucking top hat, leg kicking routine. They could very much giving, like, that one emoji of, like, the two like, little dancers together. They start rolling in. We see Angie K and Danna there. Meredith is there to judge, and Jen is, like, executive producing. And Angie H and Whitney are also there. And Jen is shocked to see Angie Harrington there. And that's the end of the episode. It's to be continued. So we're going to pick up with this scene the next episode, episode 7, and we'll see some drama go down between some of the friends of, I believe it's Angie K, Angie H, and Jen Shah kind of having a little interaction. But anyways, that's a 2-parter. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks again. Bye.